I was sitting down with my parents this past weekend, and my mom tells me that they did something they've never done in the 30-some years that they've been in this country. They went out for coffee. Well, more specifically, they went out for tea, Indian tea. My parents drink a lot of Indian tea. It is a staple in the Indian culture. People call it chai. In Punjabi, my native language, we call it cha, and my mom drinks cha multiple times a day. It is a part of our culture, it's a part of our tradition. People drink a lot of cha, or chai, or tea, whatever you want to call it. Well, one of the things that my parents never did was go out to drink tea. And the funny story was, my parents, for whatever reason, decided to go out and get Indian tea. And my mom was telling the story because she said that when they went to go get the tea, they bought 2 cups of tea and 1 dessert. And my mom was kind of upset because the total for the 2 cups of tea and 1 dessert was $10. And my mom was like, I couldn't believe $10 for a couple cups of tea and a little dessert. Anyways, they paid the $10. They go to sit down, and then the cashier who brings them the tea brings 1 cup of tea and 1 dessert. And this is where my mom says, what do you mean? Where's the other cup of tea? And the cashier says, oh, sorry, I only rang you up for 1 cup of tea. It was 1 cup of tea and 1 dessert for $10. If you wanted 2 cups of tea and a dessert, it'd be closer to $15. And this is where my mom couldn't believe how expensive it was to buy tea or coffee and a little dessert when you go out to get it versus when you make it at home. Now, the reason I wanted to make this video is not to say that you should never go out and drink coffee and never go out and drink tea, although there are some financial names like Susie Orman and Kevin O'Leary who often talk about how this coffee and tea that you're buying from outside is the reason why so many Americans are broke and poor, but it goes a little bit deeper than that. There's a time and place for everything. And what you need to do is understand where you are in your financial journey. That way you don't blow your money on things that you can't afford to. If you're going out and buying a coffee from outside, say you're going to Starbucks, it might cost you around $5 for a cup of coffee, especially if you're getting one of those fancy coffee cups from Starbucks. If you do this 300 times a year, that means over the course of a year, you're going to be spending something around $1,500 on coffee from outside over the year. Now, the argument that everybody makes here is if instead you took this $1,500 a year and you invested it into something like the S&P 500, which has averaged a 10% return a year for about the last century, and you did that for, say, 45 years because you did this from the day you turned 21 until you retired, well, now this $1,500 a year you were spending on coffee would have grown to over $1 million in your investment account, but instead you just got a Starbucks cup of coffee every single day. But the thing that I want you to remember here is money is meant to be used. It's not meant to be saved and hoarded. Money only has value if you use it, but you need to know when you can afford to use it. You might have heard me talk about the 3 different phases of wealth, where I go over the different stages of you building and growing your wealth. Well, if you are in phase 1 of your wealth building journey, yeah, you should absolutely not be going out and drinking Starbucks. In phase 1 of your wealth building journey, the goals here are to save your first $2,000, and your goal here is to pay off your high interest debts like your credit card debt. If you have credit card debt, if you don't have $2,000 saved up, you are in this phase 1, what I like to call the financial danger zone, and you can absolutely not afford to go out and buy that coffee from outside. At which point, if you want to drink coffee, fine, but you got to make it at home. You can't afford these luxury experiences because yes, going out to Starbucks is a luxury experience. I'm not saying don't do it, but you got to make sure you're not in this phase 1 of wealth. In phase 2, this is where you're building a financial system for yourself. I talk a lot about something like a 75-15-10 plan, which says for every dollar that you earn from here on out, 75 cents is the maximum that you can spend, 15 cents is the minimum that you're investing, 10 cents is the minimum that you're saving. You're using this 15 number, this investment number, to either invest into things like stocks and real estate. You're using this to invest in your career, your education, that we can earn more money, your financial education. You're using this money to pay down your other debts. But going back to the Starbucks, going back to the coffee, going back to the tea, if you're living off of 75% of your income, you're putting aside 15% of your income to invest, you're saving this 10% of your income for your emergencies. Well, now, if you can afford to go out and buy that coffee with this, then by all means go out and buy that coffee because you are using it within your spending budget. If you like that feeling of getting a warm cup of Starbucks, a warm cup of coffee, a warm cup of tea from outside, that is an experience that you enjoy, well, great. You can afford it as long as it's within your spending budget. If you're going into debt to buy Starbucks, don't drink your Starbucks. But if you can afford it within your spending habits, then that's completely fine. Now, just to finish this off so I don't leave you hanging, phase 3 of this wealth building journey is when your cash flow from your investments exceeds your base expenses that you need to live off of. At this point, of course, you can again afford the Starbucks, but you got to make sure that you have the ability to afford the Starbucks. If you are on your wealth building journey, that money is better for you to own the assets than it is for you to drink the product. But if that's an experience that you like, just make sure that you can afford it first. There are a lot bigger and much more significant purchases that many people are making, which are destroying your finances much more than the cup of coffee. Things like your car, things like even an apartment that you can't afford, things like overly expensive furniture that you're financing because you can't afford it. These things can destroy your finances much quicker than a little cup of coffee. But again, you want to make sure that you're spending money in the right phase as you can afford it, because if you're spending money you don't have on things that aren't producing you any value, especially financial value, well, now your priorities are all in the wrong place. Now, of course, if you're investing your money, it pays to also pay attention to what's happening in the financial markets. And my team at Briefs Media publishes a daily financial newsletter for free called Market Briefs that you can read. Market Briefs is a free and easy way for you to stay up to date on what's happening in things like the top financial news, the economy, the housing market, the stock market, the crypto market, and the global economy into a fun, witty, and easy to read newsletter. You can read Market Briefs in less than 5 minutes every morning, and it's completely free. So if you'd like to join Market Briefs, I got the link to how you can join down in the description below, where you can go to briefs.co/market. That's briefs.co/market. And now I want to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts on going out to drink Starbucks, to going out drinking tea? Is it something that you do? And is it worthwhile or not? Let me know in the comments. If we break this down a little bit deeper, what you'll see is that you can actually break down this climb to wealth into 3 phases of becoming wealthy. Phase number 1 is this pre-climb and creating a financial base. You'll understand exactly what this means by the end of this video. Phase number 2 is leisure money and interest-free living. And then phase number 3 is